we're going to talk about two things here. We're going to talk about descriptive statistics, and we're going to talk about inferential statistics. Okay, participate. Here we go. Descriptive statistics, these are statistics that are used to summarize or describe the characteristics of known data. Okay, so it's descriptive is to describe. Okay, inferential, known data that is treated as a sample and used to draw conclusions about a larger population. Okay, so you can infer. And the word infer means to like take an educated guess or guess at like the future. Right? What's going to happen. So identify each example as descriptive or inferential. A random sample of 1,200 students was interviewed at colleges across Ontario. Of those questions, 18% had their own credit card. Okay, so this is known data. Okay, we know of these 1,200 students, 18% have a credit card, so this is descriptive. Okay, now let's look at the wording of the next one. Based on a random sample of 1,200 students interviewed, at colleges, Ontario colleges, 18% of college students have their own credit card. So this is like based on, and then you could say like how many students out of 2,000 would have their own credit card, right? So because this is saying based on a random sample, they are inferring that 18% of all students. So this is summarized data. So this is inferential statistics. Okay, a little bit difficult because the wording could be very, very similar, but we have to identify of those questions, 18%. So this is 18% of those 1,200, but for B, what they're doing is they're only sampling 1,200 and they're saying, they're umbrellaing it, right? 18% of all college students. They're taking that data and they're saying, well, we're gonna just say for all college students, it's gonna be the 18%. Critical thinking. So in order to not be manipulated by advertisements and statistics in the media, which we are probably left, right, and center, especially with social media out there and us being exposed to it on a daily basis, it's important for us to critically analyze the data. Okay, so that's super important. When analyzing, you should think of the following. Okay, so first of all, based on sample, was an appropriate sample used? So was it too small or was it big enough? Okay, and is it representative of the entire population? Okay, was the sample large enough to be used to like infer, right, to make guesses about everybody? And was the sample randomly selected? Okay, was it random or was it not random? Okay, author, who conducted the survey? Does the group who is conducting the survey have special interest in the survey, or are they an independent group? Okay, so if you want to know something about a drug, like a prescription drug, you may not want to ask the pharmaceutical company because obviously it's a huge industry and they want to make sales, right? So it could be skewed. So a lot of times what happens is independent groups or independent companies go in to survey so that they don't have like a stake in it. Okay, source. Is the data from primary or secondary source? Okay, so are they getting their data firsthand or secondary source? Are they getting it from somewhere else that's already been summarized? And have the sources been documented? You got to think of the relevance. When was the study done? So if you're talking about, I don't know, smoking in the 60s, well, everybody smoked. It was social. It was accepted. Okay, there wasn't bans on like seeing cigarettes in the gas station corner store, and there wasn't those warnings on the packets. Now, super cliche, we don't really see advertisements on it. Okay, so when was the study done? Was it done in the 2000s or was it done in like the 1800s or early 1900s? Okay, and bias. Do the methods show any bias? If inferential statistics are used, is it appropriate to do so? Okay, so if you're taking guesses, this umbrella, go umbrella here. Okay, this umbrella, this blanket, like statement that they make for everybody, say for example, in example one, the college students, is this umbrella appropriate for everyone or is it inappropriate? And I'm going to type the next one up, so we'll go 20. Okay, what questions would you ask yourself if you were given the following statements? A widely used statistics in the media is that the average child watches 100,000 violent acts of violence on television by the end of elementary school. Okay, so who collected the data? You want to know whether maybe a group, okay, a group of moms who don't like war or maybe don't like fighting collected the data. Okay, and then what else? How many students were surveyed, right? Well, maybe not even students, but, or we should say children or their parents were surveyed, right? What is that based on? Is it based on a lot of people or not, right? So we kind of have like author here. Author, okay, who collected the data. And then we have something about sample. Here, how many children or their parents were surveyed. When was the study done? I think in the past, so this is relevance. And I think in the past, violence was more accepted or acceptable than it is today. Okay, and then what about what question was asked? Okay, so this is about bias, right? Is there bias in like the actual sampling? So just a couple questions here. Okay, next one. A news report mentioned that rock climbing was the fastest growing sport in Canada last year. Okay, again, who was asked? Well, did they go to a rock climbing gym and ask the people who, like, ask like a starter group? Okay, so this is sampling. So it does say last year, so we don't have to touch on relevance. Who conducted the survey? Right, so this is author. So was the survey conducted by the individuals who own the rock jumping like maybe company? Okay, and then you could get other things for this, so just fill it in as you see appropriate. Okay, last one, example 3. For class project, re-access the 2007 unemployment rates by age group from Statistics Canada. Okay. So if you're familiar, Stats Canada is a group, or like it's sponsored by the government, and they collect statistics off of from a huge array of topics. It could be unemployment, it could be GDP. Okay, it has to do with business, healthcare, maybe traveling, expenses. Everything is collected. Okay, she performed a linear regression on the data, so this is shown right here below, and concluded that there's a strong linear correlation between age and unemployment rate. Marie states that the older a person is, so this is what she states. So this is an inference. The older a person is, the less change, or the less chance, sorry, of being unemployed. Okay, perform a critical analysis on Marie's conclusion. So this is just a conclusion. We have age group, we have median age, so like this is in the middle. And then we have unemployment rate, and it's all graphed here. So what could we ask about the sample? And I'm going to type this up. Okay, how was the sample done? How was the sampling done? And we have to think, was this based on all of Canada? And then, or what areas? Or what geographical areas? Okay? Now author. Okay, so the data is from Statistics Canada. Let's change this color, okay? Who is very reliable? Which is very reliable. So that's what I'm going to say for author, okay? Now, what about the source? Okay, she's using a secondary source, right? Because she's using Statistics Canada. Statistics Canada is has the funding to ask many people, whereas like she may only have be able to ask like a certain few in maybe her community. So this is collected from a secondary source, and it's most likely properly documented, especially if it's Statistics Canada. So author and source are very reliable. Okay, let's go down. Relevance. Okay, statistics are from 2007. So these were collected in 2008, right? So if it's based on 2007, the data would have been collected probably the year after. So this is relevant and current. So let's go somewhat relevant and current. Okay, it could be more current because now we're in 2020, but it's not from the 80s is what I'm saying. Okay, and then bias. So the graph, move this down, always goes to the middle. The graph included the outlier, so we can tell that it included all points. Okay, and then also Statistics Canada, the sample size is large enough to consider and infer. Okay, so because of Statistics Canada, we know that the sample size is going to be large. Okay, if we look up here, this right here is the outlier, and they didn't mind. They said, okay, we're using it anyways, and they grabbed everything. So it's not biased in the sense where they picked and chose what data points that they were going to use.